Alright, so we have Styx and Hammer 666. A Chud we've talked about a couple times before, not super often. But he does have a final video that came out yesterday entitled, "My Final Appeal to Undecided Voters, Vote Trump." So let's see what his arguments are for why undecided voters. And honestly, if it's November 2nd and you're undecided, please go away. Please do not participate in the political system ever again. You clearly don't pay enough attention. Like, Trump voters I can disagree with, but at least they're engaged enough to have an opinion. It's a bad opinion, it's a misinformed opinion, but at least they think they're engaged in appropriate levels of political discourse, even though they're not. Someone who's an undecided voter the day before the 2020 election, I don't know how they put their pants on in the morning. I genuinely don't know. How do you, like, I guess I haven't been paying attention for the last 4 years. It's time to finally tune in. Oh, the corona what? What happened? Oh, that's bad. Title Bell with 20 bits. I feel like I can understand Trump voters more than undecideds at this point. Yeah. I can understand Trump voters from a place of, like, complete selfishness, or, like, if their motivation is, like, racism or whatever. Undecideds, I just don't understand. The same as the rest of us, one arm at a time. Interesting. Alright, let's see what this guy's got going on.
I don't wanna vote.
You don't have to watch it. If you don't want to. Okay.
I like seeing your beautiful face.
Well, thank you.
Alright everyone, unfortunately there are probably a few of you out there that live in the US and are eligible to vote who haven't decided to actually vote yet. So here's my final appeal to you to vote for Donald Trump. And I think that this is an important election. As we've seen, Trump has already played an outsized role. He's reshaped the Supreme Court. The things that he's done, by and large...
Reshaping the Supreme Court to be an arm of the Republican Party to try and shoot down any progressive legislation that's going to happen over the next 30 years isn't a positive in my book. Sorry.
He has fulfilled the things that he told us he was going to do, which is something we haven't seen from a chief executive in a while. I would give you the following reasons to vote for Trump. Now, number one is taxes, the economy. We could be in the shitter right now. We could be in a legit depression. Instead, because Trump spent 3 years buffing the economy up...
Oh my god! Guys, unemployment might be at record highs. It might be disastrous, and the stock market continues to rise despite the fact that people are out of work and can't pay their bills, and rich people enriched themselves during the coronavirus to the tune of billions of dollars. But, like, don't even worry about it, man. Trump maybe crashed the economy by mishandling a pandemic response, but can you imagine how much worse it would have been if he fucked up even sooner? That's not as compelling of an argument as you might think. Winchanter with 20 bits. It would really help me calm down if I could hear Hannah say, "Snoochie Boochies." Am I Jay from Jay and Silent Bob now?
We only slid into a recession despite the fact that the entire U.S. economy was brought to a screeching halt for an entire month. If this had happened...
Towing24 with 20 bits. Obviously, this guy is ignoring the massive socialism Trump did to bail out farmers because of his stupid effing trade war. Yeah.
Under a Biden presidency, we'd probably still be locked down now, number one, and we'd be eating nothing but cabbages and potatoes, and would be glad to have them.
Or, lockdowns would have been handled appropriately, mask mandates would have happened much sooner, we would have had a quicker, better coronavirus response, and everything would be back to normal already. Now, we might have had to have second waves of things, of lockdowns, whatever, like some of Europe is having, but nonetheless, many of those places have it relatively under control, relative to what's happening in the U.S. The U.S. has a massive COVID death toll relative to the rest of the world. Like, and I'm just gonna say this, I do not give a shit about the economy if it means hundreds of thousands of people are going to die unnecessarily. I do not give a fuck about some Wall Street banker getting billions of dollars richer for their company if people are going to die as a result. I don't care. I don't. And people who do sicken me. What is wrong with you people? You've completely lost the plot on what's important in your life if you think rich people getting richer is somehow more important than the lives of other people. Devious Chillster with 20 bits. Biden is not president yet. Oh my god, the whataboutism isn't even about real things that happened anymore. Trump did, but what if Mussolini was president? I wish to dip myself slowly into lava in Minecraft until I can embrace that sweet, sweet game over screen.
You would see red lines. It's very interesting to see the party that wants to waste $10 trillion on their...
Windchanter. No, you're Silent Bob, but he doesn't say much. Jake would be Jay. Okay.
Green New Deal nonsense. Claim that Trump has actually harmed the...
Grey Dutch, thank you for subscribing. 6-month streak. Grey Dutch says, in other news, most people can easily grow at least some of their own food, even on a small balcony or small plot. It's better for the earth and a wonderful and therapeutic skill. This has been a PSA by your local friendly environmentalist. Thank you.
Economy. The economy would be dead right now if it weren't for the fact that Trump was the...
The economy is super effed right now. Please do not look at the stock market line and go, oh, the economy's doing good. It's not. The economy is not doing good. We're going to continually face the repercussions of the completely botched coronavirus response up into next year and the year after. We're going to go into a recession. It's going to be real bad. We're going to go into shit we haven't seen in a long time. Trump is continually trying to avoid this because of the election, and he's pumping a bunch of money through the Fed into the economy to try and stabilize things, but that's not necessarily sustainable forever. I have a feeling that what's going to happen is if Biden wins, he's going to get into office. Some policy changes are going to happen, and at some point, the bubble that we're in regard to the stock market is going to collapse. It's going to piss a bunch of people off. At that point, all of a sudden, because the stock market crashed, even though already normal people were hurting, at that point, oh, now the media is going to give a shit about the economy because a bunch of rich people lost theoretical value in the companies they hold. Uh-oh, now all of a sudden we're in another situation like 2008 where they're going to blame Obama for the recession, even though it was the result of the Bush administration's poor fiscal policies. And the same thing's going to happen here with Trump and Biden if Biden wins. It's going to be a nightmare, folks. We're in a time loop, and we can't break out. We're like Bill Murray. I got to find a groundhog and drive off a cliff with it. Ah!
President. My worry is that if coronavirus drags on through the next year, which it probably will, and Trump is not the president, that we will have greater economic problems. That's number one. And then the tax cuts. 2/3 of Americans got a tax cut under Donald Trump.
Which expires at the end of the year. Did y'all know that? The Trump tax cuts expired at the end of 2020. So people are gonna, like, let's say Trump doesn't win. Those tax cuts expire. They're gonna get their taxes, whatever, in the next year, and they're gonna go, oh, my taxes raised again. That must be Joe Biden's fault, which is a clear thing that they did intentionally to try and sabotage the next president if they were going to be Democrats. However, the Trump tax cuts for the wealthy, those have no expiration date. It was basically a free giveaway to the wealthy, and then in order to distract the peons, they're like, okay, you can have 4 years of tax cuts. But after that, F you. So it's going to be a nightmare because no one pays attention. Devious Chillster with 20 bits. COVID will drag on because Trump is president, you sentient incarnation of whatever sin Jesus could not cleanse. Ooh, that's a good one.
Most of the middle and working class, that helped things. When you pay less taxes, people had a little bit more money. They were able to weather the lockdown a little bit more. It's not perfect, but we survived.
Or how about this? We actually tax the wealthy and corporations appropriately, and then if we get into a situation like COVID where we need to be giving relief to actual workers, then we have the money in the bank that we can say, hey, people paid a bunch of taxes appropriately, and now there's an emergency for the country. Should we be giving people regular stimulus checks to ensure that the economy doesn't crash and make sure they go to the bottom and then find their way to the top, because that's how the economy actually functions? You give money to people at the bottom and then they spend it on their bills and their groceries and stuff, and then those companies have money instead of straight up just sending that money directly to the corporation that's going to enrich themselves and not help the people who actually need the money at the bottom of the pyramid. Ah, frustrating.
As a country, we didn't collapse.
Funny about the tools
Number
of
2.
capitalism.
Cascadia 93, $1,200 once. One time 7 months ago. Yup.
Trump hasn't started a new war. That's interesting, especially for a Republican, historically speaking. It's been a while since...
If the best thing you can say about your candidate, or one of the best things, is, guys, he didn't start a war. Maybe there aren't a lot of good things to say about your candidate. And by the way, Trump tried his darndest. Pulled out of the Iran deal, assassinated a leader, bombed an airstrip. Like, Trump is doing his darndest, guys. Come on. Devious Chillster with 20 bits, he almost sounded disappointed. Xenon Exemer subscribed. Thank you for the 3 months. The Ender 92 with 20 bits. How are the religious people the most greedy? Doesn't their book hate that? Again, I tell you, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. Christians don't read the Bible. Why would you assume they do?
Since we've had a chief executive who didn't constantly beat on the drums of war anyway. Even Obama was a bit of a warmonger. He was just more quiet about it than George.
Obama didn't start any new wars. As much as a lot of presidents, he participated in them, and I disagree with a lot of the things Obama did in regard to, like, continuing drone strikes. It doesn't change the fact that Trump does that shit too, and he's done it at a higher rate. Like, come on, guy, you can't be this dishonest. Lonesome Troll with 20 bits. As the word of the vice presidential candidate Kanye West, buy land with the money the government has given you. He did not say that. You know what? I believe you. I'd believe if you said Kanye said almost anything, I'd probably believe that. That dude needs some better. He needs some medication.
W. and Herbert Walker were. Clinton invaded Yugoslavia, or former Yugoslav state rather. I'm forgetting my recent history, my late Cold War history. Going into Serbia over the coast.
I was gonna say that was a while ago. That's not that recent in terms of recent history. That's a little over 20 years ago.
Kosovo crisis, getting involved there. Ronald Reagan was not exactly a peacenik. Peace through strength, okay, it kind of works, but the Iran-Contras existed, among other groups. Grenada, I believe, at the time.
How long am I planning on streaming? I don't know. Maybe another hour.
Big problems. No new wars under Trump. By the way, not entirely even necessarily expected by a lot of people, certainly not by anti-Trump fans. They'll go, oh my god, Trump's going to start World War III. Didn't happen. So
again, pulling out of the Iran deal, assassinating an Iranian leader, bombing was he bombing a Syrian airstrip? Sorry, it's been a while, guys. It's been a long year. The pulling out of the Iran deal, the assassinating of the political leader, who I'm forgetting. It's been a long year. Again, I apologize. And the bombing of the airstrip, which I think was in Syria. Not cool. Not cool moves, Donnie.
Economy, war, number...
Razor with 500 bits. This guy seems like the guy who thinks Warhammer 40k lore is great government policy rather than satire.
3, think of who his opponent is. I hate to say it, but one of the main qualifying features of Trump is we know how he'll govern. We've seen how he's governed over the last 4 years, and the election is primarily a referendum on whether you think he's done a good job or not. I personally think that he did. I think his opponent is out to lunch. I think his opponent legitimately has cognitive issues. I think that we've seen enough evidence at this point of that, and we've got to...
The Biden dementia meme, I'm so glad it fell super flat this election. They kept trying, but try as they might, and again, I have a lot of problems with Joe Biden. The dude doesn't have dementia. He has a speech impediment. Like, if you're harping on Biden for a speech impediment that he's had his entire life and still struggles with, and your only comment on it is, oh, he's got dementia, you're an asshole. You're just an asshole. There are so many things to criticize Biden for. Criticizing him for a speech impediment is disgusting. Mitchell Drummer, 85 bits. Snipe and Devious Chillster with 20 bits. God, I hate this so much. That Biden dementia meme is so ableist. Yeah.
And his opponent is almost 78 years old.
Corn Pop was a bad dude. True.
To the Democrats, I would say, here's an appeal to you of why you should vote for Trump, or at the very least sit it out or vote third party. If you elect Joe Biden, you will not have a President Joe Biden. Not for very long, anyway. The man is not well. he will probably not serve a full first term. You will essentially be coronating the first female president outside of a popular vote.
Okay, that's fine. That's how vice presidents work. Do you know that? You elect a president with the knowledge that their running mate will be the president if the president dies. Everyone knows how that works. That's okay. I would prefer President Kamala Harris over President Donald Trump or Mike Pence. We know how vice presidents work. It's in the name.
A non-incumbent who will then have to face an energized Republican Party and the very real likelihood of a red wave in the subsequent midterms as a referendum on Joe Biden, who is likely to do things that are divisive. One of his latest posts on Twitter is talking about how he wants to ban assault weapons. That would be a highly divisive issue, and Republicans, in an outsized manner, already tend to come out in larger numbers during the midterms.
Wasn't true in 2018, so we'll see what happens in 2022. Lonesome Troll with 20 bits is a person who has 2 people die due to dementia and almost definitely will suffer if I live long enough. I find them sickening and frustrating. Yeah.
That's why the Senate went more red in the last election, despite the fact that Trump at the time, during the last midterms, was at an all-time low in polling approval. But the Republicans still gained 2 extra Senate seats. One of them being a rhino with Mitt Romney, but they gained it anyway.
I want to go back in time to 2012 and show this clip to someone and have them hear this jackass say, Mitt Romney, Republican presidential candidate, is a rhino. The last 4 or 5 years have fried everyone's brains, and we're never going to be functional again.
Anyway, of course, Murkowski and Collins at the end of the day are basically in the same boat. But then the Republicans kind of have Joe Manchin, so it's still a 50-50. It's a very odd Senate structure at the moment. I would say this. The Democratic Party will lose the subsequent election if Biden is elected. Because either...
What's a rhino? A rhino is a Republican in name only. It's basically a way for Republicans to criticize other Republicans that don't necessarily always toe the party line, or if they think they're not right-wing enough, they'll call them a rhino.
Biden will be crazy.
Jobinator, thank you for subscribing with Prime. Jubinator with that says, as Americans, we need to take a serious Trump dump.
Enough to run again as an 82-year-old man, which I can't imagine the population will find palatable, even if he does a reasonably good job, which I would doubt. Or you have a non-incumbent former VP who's been president only because the former president resigned or had an aneurysm or something. A technical non-incumbent, after probably a red wave, obstructs government, throttles things for at least the last 2 years of his term, and there's no guarantee that the Democrats gain the Senate in this election. If you have a 1-seat Republican majority in the Senate, which is roughly the likelihood at the moment, what's Biden going to do during his presidency? He's not going to accomplish anything. The Republicans are great at obstructing things and then blaming other people for obstruction.
Imagine saying that and not recognizing that your party is evil. Imagine saying that about the party you are advocating for and not having a second and go, wait a minute. Are we the bad guys?
That's what led to the Tea Party, remember, in 2010. My final appeal to people is to vote for Trump, including Democrats. If you value the Democratic Party's soul or energy or whatever you call it, it's status quo, you have to reject Joe Biden.
Chief Tony with 20 bits just got back from voting. The line was really long, and I live in a very red state, which Trump will win, but dang it, had to try. Well, thank you for going to vote. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it.
He was essentially forced on the party anyway because of a lack of other people that were qualified to actually run, just based on his name recognition. You nominated a dude who's almost 80 years old, and clearly...
Guys, I've said I'm a broken record on this. Joe Biden and Donald Trump are almost the exact same age. Joe Biden, I think, is 3 years older, which when you're in your, 70s, 3 years is not a difference at all. At that point, you're looking at, health factors, more so than you're looking at the literal birth date on which they were born. Trump is a much less healthy 70-something-year-old than Joe Biden is. If we looked at both of them and had legitimately neutral doctors give them both checkups, Joe Biden would come out of that looking better than Donald Trump. Donald Trump is an unhealthy guy. I don't understand. I don't understand this right-wing criticism of Biden as being old. They're both too old. I agree. But to single out one as being old and not the other is just hypocrisy, no matter who does it. I would say the same thing if someone was like, Trump is too old, vote for Biden. I'd be like, well, they're both too old. They're both too old. They're both too old. But it doesn't change the fact that those are our options right now. So you vote for one of them.
Clearly has at least verbal problems, if not actual cognitive decline. Just think about how weak that means the other people were. Elizabeth Warren didn't even... She came in third in her own home state in the Democratic primaries. Michael Bloomberg was barely a blip on the radar, despite dumping, what, $100 million into his primary run?
Yeah, because people hated Michael Bloomberg and don't like the idea of her... As it turns out, even liberals, people on the left, don't like the idea of some rich billionaire asshole trying to pay his way into an election like Donald Trump did. For some reason, people on the right ate that shit up, though. Weird.
Now, of course, he said he's going to dump his funny money into the campaign. He spent $100 million in Florida, and yet Trump is 2 points ahead. Do you think maybe the Democratic Party has some problems that it needs to address before it can reasonably go forth and lead? Do you think that the dysfunctionality of the Democratic Party today means that the Democrats under Biden are actually going to be able to lead the country in a coherent manner? I don't think so. Trump has shown leadership. Whether you like it or not, the wall's been built, by and large, behind schedule because of funding concerns.
No, it hasn't.
Because it took him 2 years to clear the funding hurdles that he had when his own Senate obstructed him. But it's gone up. Some of you, if you're more liberal, you probably don't like that fact, but it's there.
Funny about the
you got tax relief. You got VA reform.
Ender92 at 20 bits, I just thought of this. Do you think right-wingers subconsciously feel like Trump is younger because Melania is younger and they have a vacuous, squishy, smooth brains? No, I don't. I just don't think they think about it. I don't think Melania is part of it at all.
You got the non-signing of the TPP. I'm struggling to think of actually major campaign promises that he made that he didn't fulfill. For better or for worse, Trump, in my opinion, has done a reasonably good job. Now, reasonably good 6 out of 10 presidency may not be so glitz and glamour, but it's the first time we've had a president since first-term Ronald Reagan who was capable of making an independent decision and not screwing up.
I talked about this earlier in the stream, and I gotta reiterate it here. The different alternate realities that these people live in.
Capitalism.
I have no conceivable idea how you start to bridge that gap. Because they just live in an alternate universe. They live in an alternate universe where events happen completely differently than what they happen in real life. It is... I'm taken aback and made breathless by it sometimes. Misunderstand, I'm getting an aneurysm listening to Skinny Hagrid.
If any of the other presidents since then had been independent, then they were screwballs, and I consider them all to be controlled opposition. Obama never fulfilled the things that he said. He never closed Gitmo or anything.
Okay, but the Affordable Care Act still passed. It was healthcare reform. Incredibly flawed healthcare reform. Excuse me.
There's nothing funny.
Sorry, incredibly flawed healthcare reform, handicapped by the healthcare industry that still needs work, and we need a public option, and then we need to work on, Medicare for all. If we could get right to Medicare for all, that would be great. But I feel like it's going to be a step-by-step process where we'll start with a public option, and then we'll, get there eventually. But that happened. Obama did all sorts of shit, dude. Like, that was like his main campaign promise was healthcare reforms, and he came through with it in the first 2 years of his presidency. Like, you can't just harp on the one thing Obama, and I know there were multiple things Obama didn't do. Plenty of criticisms of Obama. But to point at Gitmo and then say it's indicative of every other thing Obama said he was going to do is disingenuous at best. Why is Reagan so revered on the right?
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Like Donald Trump, he had very positive things to say about the United States. And I don't think it makes sense for the president of a country to have positive
nothing
things.
funny about
But when I
the
say
tools of
that, I don't
capitalism.
mean in a realistic positive way. Like Obama said, tons of positive things about the United States. But it was also tempered with the realistic understanding that we are a individual country on the planet with our own faults. And that doesn't jive well with conservatives. They don't like the idea of doing anything but holding up America as the best country in the history of the world that has ever existed, and if you say it has any flaws, then you're a communist. Ronald Reagan was another person, like Trump, who would just go around being like, America's the best, America's the best, there's nothing wrong with America. If you say there's something wrong with America, there's something wrong with you. We are a shining city on a hill. Oh, by the way, there's an AIDS crisis happening, but fuck them because they're gay. Like, that was Donald Trump's presidency. Also, a little bit of light treason with the Iran-Contra thing, but what's a little treason, between friends? Anyway. Tucker White 94, at least Reagan governed like an actual statesman. Trump doesn't even do that. I wouldn't give Reagan that much credit. 3 minutes ago, he praised the GOP Congress for obstructing shit, and now he's complaining about Obama getting nothing done. Yeah, I know. That's what people on the right do. You gotta move those goalposts. Whatever argument makes sense in the sentence you are currently saying is the one that makes sense. It's not about having principles, it's about having talking points. Chart showing percentages of promises fulfilled by Trump. Okay. Reagan also helped the Contras bring crack to America. There's a lot of interesting Reagan stuff if you look it up ever. It's pretty interesting. Trump-o-meter. 49% of 50 promises broken, 5% stalled, 20% compromise, and 24% promises kept. Okay. Create a healthcare savings account? No. Scaled back the EPA, which is a promise, but it's a shit one. Open up libel laws. I think that's a stalled. Invest $550 billion in infrastructure and create an infrastructure fund. No, he did that. Yeah. Frustrating, to say the least.
There's nothing funny
raise
about the
taxes.
tools of capitalism.
Cascadia93 from the ACLU's Twitter feed. Your home state has registered over 18,000 new voters today. Nice.
Bill Clinton was screwing around in the Oval Office on a constant basis with constant issues, and George W. was George W. Need I say more? 4 presidencies in a row that arguably were at most a 3 out of 10 with Bill Clinton, and that seemed great by comparison to the people that came before and after. Bill Clinton. Of recent presidents other than Trump, Bill Clinton is the only one that comes to mind that even tried to do a good job. Hell, half of the...
What? Who puts Clinton above Obama in terms of, like, Democratic presidents? That's so bizarre to me.
The reason that happened is because there was a boom time in the 90s that had nothing to do with any policies he himself
There's nothing
passed.
funny about the tools
And
of
he still
capitalism.
screwed up all the time.
Tucker White 94, first batch of projections. CNN calls Indiana for Trump, and Fox News calls Virginia for Biden. It's so quick, guys. Come on, let's not do calling yet. I don't think it's gonna... We can take a look in for a little bit, but I'm only going for another hour or so. Let's see as they come in. Do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
It's almost caused World War III there. Wasn't it that crazy anti-Trump general there, I can't remember his name, almost caused World War III over there because he ordered his men to invade an airport held by the Russians at the time when they were fucking around over in Kosovo. And of course the lower commander said no. Almost got court-martialed for it, I think, but probably saved us from World War III. Interesting how that happened. Bet you didn't know that part of the Clinton presidency. Or the Waco invasion. Look at Janet Reno's record
People know about Waco. What the fuck are you talking about?
if you want to know about him. Anyway, the other reason is it's great to have a president who's actually legit entertaining. A Biden presidency would be so boring, except that
I want the president to be boring. What is wrong with the president is supposed to be boring. The presidency and governing in general is supposed to be boring. You know why? A lot of governing is just keeping the lights on. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do. I think there's tons of stuff that needs to be done in regard to, like, healthcare, Green New Deal, whatever stuff. But those are few and far between. Most days you're just keeping the lights on and you're doing procedural bullshit. I do not want a president who's a reality TV star who's entertaining. I would like a president who's competent at their job. That's what I'm looking for.
When he comes out and does a Gerald Ford and says something stupid, it's worth a quick chuckle. But you're not going to get the kind of online drama and personal insults and stuff that we've grown accustomed to. Honestly, even if Trump wins a second term, the nation is going to have such a hangover after 4 or 8 years of Trump. It's going to be some weird times. But I'd like to kick the can down the road 4 more years. So I say 4 more years of Trump. I support him. I'll be streaming on election. I'm going to make it clear to everyone, oh, if you haven't voted, you got another 30 minutes. Get to the fucking polling place. It is an important election. Trump is not the bigot, not the fanatic, not...
He is. He is those things, though.
Not the insane man that he's cast off as by, well, a bunch of billionaire multinationalists that control...
Trump is also that! You cannot in the same breath say, the people who criticize Trump are just a bunch of multinational billionaires. My brain short circuits. Like I'm a computer that's just been told, like, this statement is false. No. You can't do that. He's also a billionaire. An international billionaire. What do you think he is? Tucker White 94 with 20 bits says Styx's argument literally vote for Trump so we can have 4 more years of batshittery. Seems like it.
Control the entire corporate legacy media apparatus and have deep pockets and their hands down the pants of most of the legislature. Trump's not that man. Look at his record. Actions speak louder than words. I don't care if he insults people on Twitter. Actually, it's kind of endearing. That's about all. Peace out.
Indigown Sightly, thank you for following. Okay, so that's Styx. That was a really bad video, even by Chud standards.